Pechakucha Night, Volume 52 at the Mill and Mine. Thanks for coming out. We think we have an excellent slate of presenters tonight, and so we are very excited. If it's your first time to Pechakucha, it's a Japanese word for chit-chat. It was started by Klein Daitham Architecture in Tokyo, Japan, and it's in over 1,300 cities around the world. And again, this is our 52nd volume, so we've been doing this 4 times a year since 2011. What you're going to see is 9 presenters with 2 intermissions, and then each presenter has 20 images with 20 seconds per image to tell their story. And that will be the format for tonight. We want to thank the Mill and Mine that provides this space for you and I to come for free. They're very generous. They see this as a town hall. And so thank you to the owners and the servers here at the Mill and Mine for hosting us tonight. Tonight, taking pictures, photographs, we have Eli Johnson. He'll be taking photographs. If you've ever been to a concert in Knoxville or here at the Mill and Mine, you've seen Eli with a camera in his hand. And then Logan, Log the Human, created our poster. So Logan, thank you very much for creating this poster for us. And then finally, I want to thank my fellow collaborators, curators of this event. So there are right now 10 of us who help put this on. We meet once a week for 1 hour at a bar, and we think about how to put something creative on like this. So thank you all, curators. This is our presentation order for tonight. So there'll be 3 presentations, an intermission, 3 an intermission, and then 3 more. And then I do want to ask if you have your cell phones that you would either put them on silent or whatever, so you don't have to call. And if you want to have a conversation, there's a wonderful courtyard out there to do it. Thank you for coming and enjoy the night.
It's time for me to bust the stage. Let's go. All right. Okay, I guess I'm ready to get this thing started. Oh, Lord, that made me nervous now. Hello, everyone. My name is Deja Parker, and I'm the founder and curator of Silver Lining Productions. Silver Lining Productions is a digital storytelling archive studio dedicated to preserving our collective history. I'm drawn to this work for my love of storytelling and our shared ability to turn our bodies into vessels for lineages and legacies. My story starts with my grandmother, Mary Jane McCoy. She is a matriarch and a pioneer to the North. My grandmother was a sharecropper in the Jim Crow South, and with nothing more than a 4th grade education and a few babies in tow, made the legacy-altering decision to migrate to the North in what is called the Great Migration. Come on. My grandmother's story was the help. She held the challenging juxtaposition of being trusted enough to care for a white family's child, but not trusted enough to use the same bathroom. My grandmother, she remembers, she knows, she survived and lived through it. My grandmother's story never made it to the history books, but is the foundation of what this country is built on. She endured shame and heartache to build a legacy that extends beyond her 3 times. Her determination inspired in me a fight to preserve her story and her legacy so that it is never forgotten. Mile for my soul are the stories unheard, my dream world. It is the necessary space to explore the brilliance and contributions of Black women that our history has oftentimes denied room for. It's my hope that by providing each of you entry into my dream world, that our dreams collide in the service of our collective liberation. Rich in nothing else except books, y'all, my soul was set free. Zora Neale Hurston was the first Black author introduced to me during my 10th grade AP English class, shout out Miss Reaper, through her classic novel, The Eyes Were Watching God. Her brilliance was a portal to a new world where I learned about Octavia Butler, Nikki Giovanni, and all the brilliant minds that have cultivated me into the woman I am today. The Pool Players, 7 at the Golden Shovel. We real cool. We left school. We lurk late, we strike straight, we sing sing, we thin gin, we jazz June, we die soon. Film is one of my greatest loves. It is the sacred space where the imagined becomes real and we see what our world could become on the biggest screen. I honor the work of Hattie McDaniel, Eartha Kitt, Dorothy Dandridge, Pam Grier, Ruth DeSouza for their contribution to the world of film and culture. This is the end of your rotten life, you motherfucking dope pusher. Period. Listen, blaxploitation films like Coffee depicted African American life in some of its most raw and uncut moments, for better or for worse. This portrayal oftentimes brought criticism, but for many black folks, it was the first time they had seen their stories on the big screen. Music is the blessed tie that bonds us. The ability that music has to unsettle and disrupt the very fabric of our collective existence can never be understated. I'm forever grateful for the works of Diana Ross, Anita Baker, Donna Summer, Chaka Khan, Billie Holiday, and of course Nina Simone. Southern trees bear a strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Strange fruit is the sound that gave voice to the harsh realities and cruelty of lynching in the Jim Crow South. I thank Billie Holiday for lending her voice to fuel a movement. What if we told young girls to reach for the stars with the knowledge that they actually could? Black women in STEM are some of the most underrated heroes of our time. The stories of Mae Jemison, Henrietta Lacks, Katherine Johnson, Alice Ball, and Bessie Blount are the necessary reminders that the limits to the ambition of Black women is the moon. I learned about Henrietta Lacks when I started my career in public health. Her sacrifice was never cemented in the pages of my history or biology books. Never truly receiving the credit or the compensation, Helia cells were the first immortal cell line, leading to some of the greatest medical breakthroughs of our time. The power of the universe is at my feet when I rock my favorite fit. Of course, I had to talk about fashion. I remember aspiring to the legion of greatness that is Miss Naomi Campbell. As a young girl, I remember seeing the richness in her complexion and the fullness of her lips. And for the first time, I imagined a world where I could be beautiful. Today, I pay homage to the nameless Black girls that have been driving fashion culture anonymously for decades. They may never see the pages of Vogue. But from oversized bamboo earrings to decadent nail designs and ornate hairstyles, I know what's up. I peeped the inspiration and I'm so grateful for their contributions. Of course, there's gonna be a slide with Sha'Carri Richardson in it, okay? Simone Biles, the GOAT, Serena Williams, enough said. While I am a lover of historical figures, the future of women's sport is now, and our current generation of talent is breaking records left and right, and that's word to the Olympics in Paris. Athleticism is the land where finish lines become glass ceilings and Black women athletes break through, shattering the glass from legacy denied to space secured. Their contribution to the history of women's sport has solidified the narrative that we all know. Everyone watches women's sports. Trisha Hersey, aka the Nat Bishop, this woman introduced me to the revolutionary power of rest. Today was not just an opportunity to explore the contributions of Black women, but an invitation to my dreamscape. This place of celebrating the contributions of Black women is where I find my deepest rest. This story ends where it begins with my grandmother. Her legacy is proof that the stories of ordinary people are the necessary piece to understanding our history. It is in this understanding that I realize I do not stand on the shoulders of giants. Instead, I stand amongst all of you, locked arm in arm, as we look to the future for our collective liberation. I'm building a world where I can dream with my eyes open, and rest is not exiled to a bedroom. In this world, the contributions of Black women are celebrated loudly and boldly in every space imaginable, and the stories of ordinary people make it to the history books. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my dreams tonight. Sweet dreams.
Have you ever received cliched advice that actually impacted your life? This is my dad. I hope that when you leave here tonight, a line that you have heard time and time again will hold more significant meaning after you've heard it from him. My dad didn't want a second child, but 8 years after their first was born, he returned home from a business trip telling my mom that a little girl on her daddy's shoulders changed his mind. At least, that's the story they've always told me. Whether or not that is the full story, I'm thankful that I'm here to share how that decision of my dad's and many that followed impacted my life, including the cliche that he uttered 22 years later after accompanying me to South Beach, Miami, where our mission was to find an acceptable apartment on my new entry-level nonprofit salary. I quickly learned that Pepto-colored bath tiles, a communal outdoor laundry facility, and an open concept that meant your twin bed shared space with your living room were small prices to pay to live on the mile-long stretch of store-lined stretch to the beach known as Lincoln Road. It felt like adulthood was going to be a paid version of my college experience, though I quickly learned I didn't excel at my job like I had at school. I found it much less managerial than originally portrayed and much more feet on the ground canvassing for donations at the peak of a recession. When the company threatened my promised training, I called my dad worried about letting he and my mom down. It was then that, among other advice, he uttered those seemingly trite line, "Life is too short." This time, it meant that life was too short to invest my time and energy where that investment was not being reciprocated. So after just 2 weeks into my first big girl job, I quit. With resume in hand, I walked up one side of Lincoln Road and down the other, applying to every restaurant possible. The next day, I was serving tourists dinner with better pay, more flexible hours, and a 5-minute walk to work. It seemed pretty perfect, other than the fact that I had just graduated magna cum laude and moved 14 hours away to serve sushi and mojitos. That uncertainty over my career led to dreams about starting my own business. My dad was a commercial lender most of his working life. So one of my most memorable conversations with him was walking the streets of South Beach, peering into the windows of empty storefronts, detailing to him my idea for a build-your-own pizza place. He asked the tough questions from a lender's perspective, but again encouraged me to pursue it, reminding me that life is too short. This time, too short not to believe in and bet on myself, even in the face of uncertainty. Those words and the permission they granted stuck with me for 7 years until I would open my first business. I got very overwhelmed with the wedding dress shopping experience until I visited an out-of-state store where I was the only bride being served and decided that Knoxville needed something similar. After a year of simultaneously wedding and business planning, Loveliest was born. Shortly after that conversation about pizza place scouting, my dad took his own life. And that seemingly trivial line took on greater meaning. Indeed, his life was too short. If only he had heeded his own advice and believed that life is too short to put stock into one season or set of circumstances, too short to seek a permanent solution to temporary troubles, too short to sit in trepidation of what lies ahead. If only he hadn't feared the uncertainty of what was next, he wouldn't have missed out on the magic to come. He didn't get to meet my husband or my daughter or see me open that business. Loveliest not only allowed me to manifest my dream that was spurred on by my dad's encouragement, but it also afforded me the opportunity to use my experience of losing him to empathize with others during one of the most special times in their lives. I helped brides who had also experienced great loss of former spouses, of parents, and even children. I sat and held a bride in a tight embrace as she sobbed that her parents chose not to attend her same-sex wedding, and created innumerable other memories. When my mom's battle with dementia required more of my attention, I sold my boutique to a Loveliest bride and her mom. As aligned as that decision felt, I've spent the 2 years since in another period of uncertainty as I've tried to balance my career with parenthood and caregiving. The difference this time is that I'm facing it with the reminder that life is too short not to welcome the messy middle. How about you? Have you been living in a state of limbo, teetering away from what was, but not quite yet on solid ground of the next step? Have you been feeling like you can't enjoy that space in between because it doesn't feel solid, certain? I invite you when you leave here tonight to embrace the squishy middle, because I think when we get to the end, we'll realize that's all there really was, and life is too short to miss it. I'm Anna Wiggins. I would love to connect with you. You can find me on Instagram at Untethered Tangles or at the bar after this to celebrate. Thank you.
All right, my journey starts. I started drumming at the age of 6 years old. I took my first official drum class. At 15 years old, I started my journey of playing consistently. I played in the children's group called the Umwatoto Drum and Dance Ensemble, started by my mom and Kaki Ajanaku. We performed all throughout the city and for everybody. Today, I'm a teacher. I'm the West African drum instructor at Austin's High School and Vine Middle School. Been there for 20 years this year, guys. So, within these 20 years, it felt good to be able to teach at the school that I went to and graduated from. I put this picture up here because it's the year 2020 of this graduating class. And that's when I started Drums Up, Guns Down, based off a string of violence that happened in our community. Literally, a kid got killed coming out of the parking lot, and that exact kid was in my class. And so it was interesting, not interesting, but like it was kind of disheartening to be able to not see him anymore. So Drums Up, Guns Down was established to use drum and dance as a tool for students to be able to heal and deal from past and present traumas. And it's also a way for me to have an outlet to be able to give to them. In this process, I wanted to expand my drum knowledge and what I did with drumming. So I decided to travel to Africa. First place I went to was Oshogbo, Nigeria. And from what you can see, you will see drums anywhere and everywhere, right? So this guy was on his way from a festival, and I caught a picture of him because I thought that was pretty neat to see somebody with drums on their back on a motorcycle. So every day in Oshogbo, I took drum classes from the elders of the community. One of the guys in the picture in the middle, he's the elder drummer over all of the drummers in Oshogbo, Nigeria. Oshogbo, Nigeria is about 4 hours away from outside of Lagos, Nigeria. Every day I took drum class, and it was very important to me to continue my studies in drumming. This brother right here was one of the drum instructors that taught me the importance about being a drummer, how to present yourself, how to exert yourself when you're drumming, how to take care of your drum, and how to be an official drummer. Also, I was able to take part of a ceremony where I was over there. It was a ceremony that represented a yangalu. That's parts of the ceremony that I was able to catch. So it was a drum ceremony, and a yangalu is a drum deity in the Yoruba tradition. And so drumming is an essential part of Yoruba culture, and it acts as a musical bridge between humans and the Orisha, enabling the Orisha practitioners to petition the Orisha for guidance, intervention, blessings in their daily lives. I was told that drums are the gateway for the Orishas and our ancestors to come to be with us. Now, the drums of the Nigerian culture, you will see you have 5 different drums. The 5 drums are, we have the Iya Ilu, which is the mother drum that leads the conversation. The Agunda, or Kitakiti, is an accompaniment drum. The Omele, or the Karan, is the lead drum. It's also an accompaniment drum. The Iya Ilu 2 is a lead drum as well. And the Gugadagu is a lead drum, is right here. So now I fly back home, I come home, I bring my drums home, bring some clothes home, then I fly back out to go to Senegal. I went to Dakar, Senegal. I stayed in Dakar, Senegal for about 4 weeks. And so Dakar, Senegal, This one piece right here shows the representation of the entire city because you see art everywhere, amazing performances. Everywhere you walk, you hear the drums, you seen the drums. You saw performances just walking on the beach. This was literally on the beach, walking down the beach. I said, oh, there's some drumming. And I saw these guys drumming, and I saw these people dressed up in these elaborate costumes. The costumes that you saw were in the rendition of what they call the fake lion. The fake lion was this guy who walked around this village and he embodied the lion. He had the characteristics of a lion. So they started doing performances and they had the fake lion. The next drum that I learned in Senegal was a set of drums called the Kotito drums. The Kotito drums are from Senegal and also Gambia. It was once called Senegambia. The Kotito drums consist of 3 different sets. You have the large drum is called the Katiluba. The smallest drum is called a Katiluling. And then you have the Soboro. The Saboro. And that's this long cannon looking drum right here. And they also play the djembe in Senegal. And so in Senegal, I took classes every day. I went to 3 different areas, an area called Ngour and Mbour. And in Mbour, I met a group of Kotito drummers that pretty much showed me how all of the drums come together as a family. Because when I took class, it was just me and my instructor, Kisa Diabate. So when I went to Mbour, which is about 2 hours outside of Senegal. So now I land in Mali. I went to 3 different cities in Mali. I went to an area in Mali called Ségou, which these drums are from. The big drum is called the chom, and the small drum is called the bongoro. Those drums are heavy, so I didn't bring those. All right, and when I went to another village outside of Sidi, Mali, it was called Jolafoto. Jolafoto is a village probably about an hour and a half outside of Mali. And it really gave me an idea. I just wanted to go there and kind of get outside and get to the countryside, get away from the city of Bamako. And once I got done drumming with one of my drum teachers, the kids just rushed the stage, as you saw. And so I showed this picture right here to say, drumming has been a part of my life, almost all of my life. My name is Obayana, and it means Oba, Ayan, king, drum, so king of the drum. So I was born with that name. So drumming, I've been able to drum to my own beat. And so I end my speech with this picture because it's a tree called the Bobo tree that's grown in Senegal and all throughout Mali and different places in Nigeria, in different places in West Africa. This tree just reminded me of, and this tree is 300 years old, guys. You say 2 prayers on that tree. I almost had it. Thank you very much.
My optometrist calls it scotoma, a blind spot. See, we humans have this spot at the base of the connection between our retinal nerve fibers and the optic nerve, which sends through it every bit of information we collect through the sense of sight. Our eyes gather light and at nearly the same speed forward it to our brains for immediate processing. Now on top of this connection sits the optic disc, which fortunately for those of us who walk the land of the sun, this disc has no photoreceptors. It doesn't detect light. In the midst of everything bright, that absence creates a blind spot, scotoma, which leaves a few pieces of the bigger picture indistinguishable. It's why your peripheral seems blurry until the moment you shift your focus. See, that reminds me of perspective. Sometimes, through no fault of our own, we even miss what's right in front of us. As clear as it may be to others who can see from a different point of view, we still miss it sometimes. We all do. It's as human as the squint. It's why we avert our eyes from the eclipse. It's an evolutionary, biological response that someone looking out for us decided to save us from being blinded by the lights. A flaw that reinforces survival, one you may not have even known until someone showed you. You have to see it if you're going to fight. But our friend, a cephalopod, the octopus, doesn't have this problem. But they do have 3 hearts, 9 brains, a main, and 1 for each of 8 appendages. Tentacles that operate like teammates, working through their own problem solving, independently with the purpose of moving as one. And what's even more amazing are their eyes. You see, the octopus has no blind spots. Their retinas have no optic disc. They operate like panoramic cameras that can individually focus. Some people even have the nerve to suggest they're colorblind. But back to octopi. They operate with something amazing called chromatic aberration. So we didn't know that until we realized there were blind spots in every iteration of our testing. We hadn't taken the time nor put in the effort to observe them in their own environment, variables we hadn't seen as flaws before. Like a white lab floor, white bottom tanks, cold white lights, they observed and believed the octopus could only see the contrast between white and not white. But the truth is, the octopus can control their pupils with such precision that they can command their sight to absorb, then reflect each and every color in the spectrum. Chromatic aberration. This isn't blindness. It's how they blend in. And the more I study, the more I believe that we could learn a lot from them. You see, the enemy is in our vision. Instead of chromatic aberration, we humans suffer from interpolation. Our brains fill in the spots we can't see with finger paintings of things we think we already know, in order to account for these spots of blindness. And this, my friends, is the physiology of bias. Our blind spots are infiltrated with memories, inferences instead of information, keeping us from noticing what it is we're not seeing, filling in blanks with blurs that keep us from processing and responding to the fear and the things that aren't familiar. Our blind spots are a guess based on bended light rays that we've only been conditioned to believe are there. That fourth leg on a chair, those Berenstain Bears, yes, officer, I'm pretty sure he was black with black hair. It's why eyewitness testimony no longer holds up in court. It's impossible. The task of seeing the things we don't notice, unless we choose to shift them into focus. So this is your moment. You have the chance to choose. Through the door on the left is blissful ignorance, and through the door on the right is painful truth. To be happy, blissfully unaware, or burdened with a truth so heavy that it only gets lighter if you share. It's a shame, a weakness to be controlled by your biases, to be at the mercies and the missteps of your memories. But I want you to know that we can be like an octopus, using more brains, 3 times more heart, ensuring everything we touch has a purpose, while we learn to shift our blind spots, alter our perspectives, and focus where the light is. Thank you. So, as a young psychology student at the University of Tennessee and a burgeoning artist, it occurred to me that the two, arts and sciences, were inextricably connected. I began to conceptualize this piece when I saw the light. 25 years now as a spoken word poet, theater maker, facilitator, paired with my connection now to the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center and the Mayor's Maker City Council. These connections, just like neural pathways, led me to the formation of my business, Artificial Intelligence. And I decided to use art to do DEI differently, creating the methodology for handling what I like to call courageous conversations in order to redefine and reimagine the way we approach this practice that's coming under a lot of fire these days. Thanks, Tim. I kept the letters D, E, and I, but altered the words from diversity to dissimilarity, moving away from the byproducts of tokenism and quota filling that have become synonymous with diversity. Dissimilar trains of thought, life experiences, cultural practices that help us reach a place we've never been, instead of getting the same results we've always gotten. As something to be celebrated, not just tolerated. These differences have shown to help organizations reduce turnover, become more efficient, more responsive, and even more profitable. Equity stays the same, but the emphasis is on true equity, because many people seem to confuse equity with equality. And although they're similar, I want to reinforce that equity is the roadmap and equality is the destination. Inclusion is my least favorite, but I like to replace it with interculturality. See, when we think about inclusion, who opens the gate? Who gets to send the invites? This is why I prefer interculturality, from a seat at the table to a community potluck, where we bring together the best of what we have to offer, share it, and we all get to make a meal of it. And I think there's some art in that. I'm Jonathan Clark. I'm the CEO and founder of Artificial Intelligence, and I'd love for you to let me help you and your organization do DEI differently. And by the way, I'm this year's chair of the Mayor's Maker City Summit, and if you decide that you would like to come September 27th through the 29th, at the Maker Exchange, you can use a code ART, A-R-T, and you'll get $10 off your admission price. And ask me about scholarships. We can make that happen too. Thanks, y'all.
I want to bring back child labor. I'm not talking about 10-year-olds in factories. I'm talking about toddlers on tractors. Let's do it. I would love to make this an interactive journey. You can scan this QR code and talk with me as we go. Or if you want, just holler at me, raise your hand, whatever you want to do. Old school works too. This is what it'll look like if you decide to use your app. You can get on there and just write a question to me. I'll get back with you, or the team will get back with you. If we can't find each other at the bar, it's hard to find me at the bar sometimes. So let's go back to the story. So child labor, and let's start with a question. How many of you are parents? You can answer in the app or just, ooh, tough crowd. Child labor, okay, here we go. So let's get back to the story. So I joined the Navy right out of high school. I started as a mechanic. I was there for 21 years. I eventually became a pilot, a flight instructor, an associate professor, did all kinds of really cool stuff. Traveled all around the world, met a ton of cool people. When I was 32, I became a mom. And then 5 of the moves that I did 14 while I was in the service, 5 of them, I had to move these 2 rowdy boys around the country. And I was always really, really worried. How do I find somebody I can trust to watch them? How do I find healthy food to feed them? I'm telling you, Mississippi is tough. So it's going pretty good, but I can tell you, if you're a parent, you have the same problem, right? How tough is childcare? You can answer on your app or just answer here. Are you unsatisfied or satisfied with your childcare right now? With your options, with your situation, with what's available there to support you? Turns out 66%. The quality spread for childcare is atrocious. It's somewhere between Mrs. Doubtfire and Adventures in Babysitting. 66% of parents are unsatisfied. So I thought, well, this isn't good. It was going okay in Mississippi until COVID hits. So then we had 2 kids, 2 essential jobs, no toilet paper, no tomatoes. Life got real hard real quick. And so I started reevaluating my options, my career decisions. The airlines were out. I had already been away from my family long enough. So I thought, what about being a farmer? How hard can this food thing really be? What do you think? What portion of farmers struggle to make ends meet? 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5? All of them? I heard it, word. 4 out of 5. 80% of farmers in the United States have a second job just to pay their bills so we can eat the food we eat at the prices that we eat it. So, okay, cool. I can be a farmer. I've got to be something else. So I start looking around and trying to think about what matters. What's next? Why is this so hard in the first place? And I would love to hear your thoughts. You can use that app or reach out another time. These are conversations that I love to have. I do have an idea about what might be the problem, but mostly the passion comes from this point. It's not just that you're a parent and you're struggling with childcare, or you love organic food and you can't find it in your town. These issues, the disconnect between our childcare system and our food system, affect all of us. They're not preparing the next generation. Enter, oh, I'm not there, sorry. The problem is disconnecting them in the first place. People and food go together. Growing it, seeing it grow, figuring out what's in season because holy cow, there it is, it's growing. It's easy, right? You don't have to Google that stuff if it's a part of your life. It's not that you have to all grow food or we have to all grow food. It's just that somebody needs to do it, so why not them? It makes sense. So that's the why behind what we do. I'm Jen. I run a company called Terra Teach. I really Circle of Elders, a company called Terra Teach. I just have a couple inputs. The team runs it. But what we do is after-school program, camps, anything that has to do with kids and teaching about food. And so we teach kids how to grow food, which is really important. We're not trying to convert them to farmers. We just want to reconnect them to the process. And in that process, they learn about a gajillion other things that are probably way more important, like conflict resolution and collaboration, work ethic, hanging out, having a good time. We bring fun back into childcare. And we think it's really, really important because it kind of sucks right now. The food thing, the childcare thing, it's all really tough. So what happens when you do that? What happens when you bring kids into places where they're uncomfortable? They'll let you know. So they get a lot of stuff with us, but they also get uncomfortable. And that turns out to be the most important thing that we actually do. We're arming them with the knowledge that it's all right to be uncomfortable. You can handle challenges. The world's gonna bop you around a little bit, and you can push back on that. Right next to that lesson, we teach them their inner wisdom, to look carefully for when they're too far into discomfort, and to advocate for themselves and the people around them about why this discomfort matters. So that's what we're up to, and we're really, really excited about it. I would love to talk to you all about it more, because I think that solving these problems, reconnecting kids and childcare and food and community, breaking bread together, is how we're gonna get through all this hard stuff. It's been a powerful evening tonight listening to everybody talk. There's a thread that you can hear, and this is what we're about right now. So if you combine secure, stable access to local, nutritious food and a caring community that really sees you and really believes in your unique gifts, you start to heal. And all those challenges that we have to solve all become really kind of possible. We can collectively do this, but we're not going to do it through power. We're not going to do it through force. We're going to find joy again. We are here to empower youth and inspire adults to regenerate our shared land, our shared values, and the community we're already in. We want to do this with you. We're not the only cool people around the block. So if you're doing something awesome, come tell me about it. Come talk to us about it. If you want to partner, I'd love to. If you want childcare, it's available. You can go on the app or find us at terrateach.org. Thank you so much, and thank you guys, to the team, for being here.
Hello everyone, I'm Lauren Murphy, and I'm here tonight to talk about my journey with egg freezing and pelvic pain as a feminist. Buckle up. I've questioned if the side effects, costs, and risks were worth trying to have it all, by which I mean a career and a family on the timeline I want. My answer is yes, despite the struggles I've had. I've experienced side effects from egg freezing that I didn't even know were possible. But I still support the women who want to use it to delay childbirth. But we need to be more frank about the side effects, the need for investing in women's healthcare research, and sharing more about the challenges women in their late 30s and 40s face as they use reproductive tech. And I say this as a newcomer to Knoxville. I've been in Washington, D.C. most of my adult life, so I hope that wherever you all are on your political and religious spectrums here, you can hear my message tonight from a place of a common human desire to have children and live a life without pain. I've worked on gender equality professionally for nearly 2 decades. My true north has been about empowering women economically with the tools and skills they need to advance their lives. And yet, for the first time, this really feels deeply personal for me in gender equality. It's my health. I'm searching for the same quality tools and resources that I give women in my work, and it's frustrating. In my 30s, I was fast-tracking in my career, making bold career moves and wanting to delay having children. Here marching in the Women's March in DC, proudly showing my poster of a strong uterus, a symbol for the women's right to choose and have control over their reproductive health. And at 36, I decided to freeze my eggs. I was fortunate enough to be in the financial position to afford it. And it had gone mainstream, hitting the front page of the New York Times. It was no longer experimental. And I've always been ambitious professionally and didn't want to have regrets, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna take the leap. And as a single person, honestly, it felt like the most empowering step I could take. I could be ready on my own terms, and yet I knew it wasn't an insurance policy. Here I am, egg retrieval day, and it was an interesting process. Really, I had to think about, would I donate my eggs to science if I didn't use them? Should I put them in my will if I die? What risks are there in this process? I learned about a few, but didn't quite know there wasn't long-term data on the side effects of egg freezing. But I was healthy, okay. Fast forward, moved to Knoxville due to romantic love a little over a year ago, and it's been delightful to be in the scruffy green city, meet its people, have gems of surprises like this, and having a family became a real possibility. But I got some unexpected abdominal pain that stopped us in our tracks. I went to a doctor, was told it was a pulled muscle. Another told me, just take birth control. Another said they couldn't treat me because I wasn't married. And my version of feminism had a very tough time with that. Turns out it was a cyst. And I had to fight to get an appointment with that lovely tool, for those who've used it. It is a vaginal probe, and I knew it was an ovarian cyst. The doctor was pretty hasty to ask for surgery, and she said, I may need to take an ovary, but don't worry, you have another one. And I said, no, that's okay. And I'm glad I trusted my intuition. I waited, and it cleared up on its own. I didn't need it. But the pain persisted. And after about last year, seeing about a dozen different doctors, I learned that the high estrogen exposure during egg freezing likely exacerbated undiagnosed endometriosis. The very hormones I was taking in the egg freezing process now may have caused so much harm that I may not be able to have children. So I decided for a different diagnostic surgery to investigate if I had endometriosis, which takes about 10 years to accurately diagnose in women, largely because we don't listen to women when they report pain. I did an invasive surgery. It's expensive, it's not without risk. And people ask me, Lauren, do you wish that you just would have had kids earlier? Or should we stop IVF and egg freezing? And my answer is no. We should continue. And honestly, I think it's the wrong question to ask. Instead, we should be asking as a community, how can we support women in their late 30s and 40s to better manage these trade-offs with expanded reproductive options? It's a whole new ballgame as we consider emotional and financial risk and harm, physical harm that I didn't even know was possible, and really hard questions we sit with, and the women who choose to do this with, when's enough professionally? So I'd like to leave you with 3 tangible things I think you can do as a community to help advance in this new terrain. Spread the knowledge of side effects. The tech is here, so how are we better educating and supporting women by age, by race, by different socioeconomic status? I went to different reproductive endocrinologists, and one told me, if I had a nickel for every woman who came in here after egg freezing and told me about pain, I'd be rich. We should be telling that beforehand. Donate to research, number 2. Endometriosis has a similar incidence to diabetes overall, but it gets 26 million per year in research. Diabetes gets 1.2 billion. Endometriosis, it's 2%. And we know so much more about diabetes and can better treat it. 3rd, talk about it. I know that's a sensational photo, but I mean the word pelvic pain, vaginas, vulvas, periods, menstruation, destigmatize it. My father came to me when he knew I was getting surgery, and he asked really thoughtful questions about my vagina. And honestly, it was a really comforting and important moment. So men, this is a male engagement moment. It's not just about women to talk to other women. It's my mom holding the onesie of my sister's baby. And I have this photo here because egg freezing represents a generational shift with the decisions that my mom and my grandma didn't face. As women now doing this, learn new coping and managing skills, and learn how to have outreach and support from other women in the community that are doing the same. To be clear, I support reproductive technology, but I also want more clarity and research on its side effects. We need more data, so share your stories. And nobody ever thinks they're going to be the rare side effect until they are. So, my desire for healthcare, quality healthcare, and understanding of the female body makes me no different from these women that I serve in my work. And like them, I want to live a dignified and pain-free life. And in some ways, I'm asking for the very same basic resources and tools that they are. So I ask you to do 3 things. Share the research on the side effects, donate to research, and talk about it. I think all women deserve it. Thank you.
Tell a friend about it.
This is a photograph of my father a year before I was born with television star Grizzly Adams. Another one of his all-time favorite shows was Bonanza. His favorite character from Bonanza was Adam Cartwright. I guess he thought with a name like Adam, I was sure to be quick on the draw. I'm Adam Deal. This image came to me in my early childhood. It would appear in the strangest places at my grandmother's old house. Years later, when fiddling around with the occult, I learned the painting to be by Austin Osman Spare, pioneer in the method of surrealist automatism. Ever since, I always try to pull from the void unless dictated by commission or words on paper. And further down the road, after feeling comfortable enough with the intuitive side of art, I began immersing myself in the styles and techniques of masters like Albrecht Dürer, whose initials I happen to share, and I often use his mark to sign my own work. And like many of us here, I had a difficult climb. I had my heroes, the Hulk, Godzilla, clearly Swamp Thing. But most of all, I had my little pens and I had my little papers. Alone in the corner where no one could find. I was unstoppable. Jumping to 2005, a friend and I opened a print shop / gallery where we specialized in off-the-wall, often interactive art shows, workshops, and scary t-shirts. Of course, the old city was a lot more desolate then. So many incredible shows lost to time. This is one design that made it out alive. Years later, after some time in LA, I felt compelled to return to Knoxville. My friend Cyrus, one of the few rich people I can say I truly love, helped me to return comfortably in exchange for the best piece of art I could conjure that reflected my emotional state at the time. I tried my voice in a variety of bands over the years, but once back home, something grabbed me that I couldn't shake. After 10 years, Horserer is still kicking. And singing is one therapy at this point I cannot live without. Just another form of art made with different muscles. Imagine the possibilities. Soon after my return, I find my best friend and now business partner at Part Flamingo Press, Eleanor Scott. This was painted from one of our many walks together around this beautiful city. This piece will later find its home in our 2019 release, Knoxville Mermaid, which some of you probably have. Look, I'm not saying the world should be drowned by some 80-headed space god with this one, but maybe it's a reminder to be a little more conscious of how we live. I never really have the answers to most of my work. I'm just the messenger. This one's called Goodbye, Cruel World. I was buried in the ground for a short film, breathing through a stick of bamboo when I got the call to do my rendition of a painting by Clive Barker on a leather jacket for someone named Ariel Winter for a movie called The Last Movie Star with Burt Reynolds. Somehow I've been in production ever since. And then my friend Cyrus from LA asked me to do the art for his brand new band Blackline, which included members of Night Sareb and Ministry. Fuck yeah. This was my attempt, but it didn't really suit the vibe, and honestly, it found a better home in our new book at Part Flamingo Press, Starlight in the Garden, set to drop in just a couple of weeks. Almost immediately after the release of our first book, Knoxville Mermaid, the pandemic sets in. We felt wounded for a spell, but soon rose from it with a new book and multiple house repairs. This is from our second release, The Dreams in the Witch House, an illuminated edition of one of my favorite Lovecraft tales. I know it wasn't the case with a lot of people, but 2020 for me was one of the most fruitful and introspective years I've experienced yet. This is just another painting from The Dreams in the Witch House that really speaks to me. It's called Walpurgis Night. These are all watercolors, by the way. Around this time, I started a new band and discovered Walnut Ink. Here's the cover for the album we released last year. If you're into old school goth music, maybe you want to check out Attic Eyes, as in glowing eyes in the attic. It's gloomy, but like always, I make sure there's a light at the end of the tunnel with any of my work. This is also around the time I started a pretty consistent gig of designing the record sleeves for classic video game soundtracks. All of a sudden, I had a reason to try my hand at popular culture, which I can't deny was pretty fun. This is my version of the iconic zombie face from the first Resident Evil game. Of course, with art like mine, I'm often a shoo-in for any sort of advertisements posted in October. Thus, I ended up doing a handful of promotional pieces for the Knoxville Horror Film Fest. And if you're not familiar with it, it's always a blast. Get your tickets now. This is one of my favorites that I did from that run. And here's another example of Halloween-based art that I've done. If you're not familiar with the podcast Monsters Among Us, I recommend you check it out. But only if you're into people's firsthand experiences with unexplained phenomena over creepy, atmospheric, ambient music. And one more for everyone's favorite holiday. This is the beer can that I designed for an Elkmont Brewery / Knoxville Horror Film Fest collaboration. I really like beer, so this was really exciting for me. And if anyone out there is planning on starting another brewery. From our most recent project comes Possum with the Flowers, a comic book we're very passionate about and hope to give you very soon. They say that the possum has the power to resurrect himself regardless of how dead he lies. At 45, 9 being the infinite number, I'd like to believe this year somehow holds my own resurrection. Lastly, we all know this guy, and he for sure knows you. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows when you've been bad or good. So people of Knoxville, be good, for goodness sake. Thank you.
Have you ever had one of those days? I mean, we've all had them. For me, there have been times that I just can't scrape myself off the couch and get out of my funk. This is my therapist, Gypsy, curled up beside me. Raise your hand if you can relate. Yeah, as you can see, you're in really good company. So what's your go-to? What gets you off the couch? Don't be embarrassed. This is what I go to for emotional support: mashed potatoes. Anybody else on that one? I want you to think about what you use for motivation, and I would like to add something to your menu of options that has helped me for as long as I can remember, being in my body and moving and dancing. Ha! There I am, 16 years old in the 80s with the headband and leg warmers on, and my very first job counseling women twice my age about the importance of diet and exercise. I witnessed at a young age the difference body awareness, exercise, and emotional support made for these women. It was no small potatoes. But speaking of potatoes, which potato are you? Here's couch potato. Are you a couch potato? Couch potatoes don't move around so much. They increase their risk of heart disease and bone diseases, and most of all, it decreases motivation exponentially. It becomes a cycle, a behavior, like a self-fulfilling prophecy. But we know that. Here's computer potato. Computer potato spends most of the time in their heads, and they tend to become unaware of their bodies, like the walking heads. Music fans. This is like pressing on the gas pedal and stepping out of your car. Being in your head all the time is an unsafe place to be. Prolonged couch potatoes and computer potatoes can end up as bed potato, either by chronic disease, accidents, or depression. Depression rates have risen drastically in the past years, and just this year, 3 out of 10 adults in the US have been diagnosed with depression. I have also had my dark moments, and in the darkest moment, in 1997, I got certified as a movement therapist at the Omega Institute, and these are my earthy, crunchy professors, where I'm getting my certificate in bare feet. When I was going through this really rough time as a single mom in a very hostile environment, I joined a West African dance troupe, Obayana. Yeah, and these people became my tribe, my support. And it was there that I performed and sweated to African beats all over South Carolina. So dance and community support saved me from being a bed potato. But back to my potato friends. There are so many ways to add movement into your life. This potato is doing Zumba. There are a multitude of fun movement classes available to fit all personalities, like jazzercise and aerobics. This is runner potato. It is the easiest to do when you decide to stand up from the couch, go out the door, and run or walk. Yet the hardest thing here is committing to just do it. That's where friends come in. Find a buddy and set goals together. Commit to mutual accountability. Just as I leaned on my dance tribe and movement community, lean on each other for motivation and inspiration, and celebrate your accomplishments when you reach them. Sometimes our bodies hold on to tension from stuck energy and emotional distress. This can show up as chronic pain or stiffness. Our minds may try to run from our feelings, but our bodies feel the pain, just like this potato. Your body is telling you something. Most chronic pain has an emotional story to tell. These are what I call issues in your tissues. It's a great name for a book, by the way. I think we are all guilty of taking on too much. I know I am. I've been told over and over by close friends that I like to squeeze 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. This puts intense stress on our nervous systems, hearts and lungs, which leaves us frazzled with no bandwidth to respond. By the way, our frantic behavior puts stress on those around us, like Gypsy here. Whatever I feel, she reflects back to me. Obviously, on this day, I must have had some intense emotions. When we listen to our bodies and its messages, we can heal the stories and release the pain. Here's a suggestion. Slow down. Say no. Say yes to rest and rejuvenation. Get back in your body. Yoga Potato is enjoying a gentle way to bring awareness to the parts of their body that need attention and nurturing. So we covered our potatoes, from couch potatoes to aerobic potatoes. We've dug ourselves out of our beds in bowls of mashed potatoes. But now, what is your inspiration for sustainability? For me, it's a spiritual quest. It's freedom in my body and my mind, free from the beliefs that hold me back and free to pursue the things that make me happy. I was temple dancing there in Bali, by the way. This year, I've been invited back to present at the Big Sky Retreat in Montana. This year's theme is A Journey to Love. Here I am teaching there. Those are live musicians. Oh, Bayana, I'm telling you, I really want to work with you. Our journey to love starts within us and within our own bodies, and then it let the ripple effect spread throughout our families and communities. So what's your motivation and why? These are a few inspirations shared with me by those who've experienced somatic movement classes and therapy. Feeling at home in your body, becoming friends with your mind, feeling possible again. So which potato will you be? Grouch potato or happy potato? It's up to you. Reach out to friends for support and mutual goal setting. Seek a community that moves. Listen to your body and receive its messages. When you nurture your body, your mind and soul get nurtured also. And when I need a nudge off the couch and out the door, Frank and Gypsy are here to make sure I do not ignore my need to move. Best therapist ever. So just move it. Thank you.
while working as a home organizer, which is that we're all in a plural relationship with every single thing we own, and that the way we treat our wives and the way we get our wives says a lot more about us than we realize. I am not advocating that we only own one thing. Even Jesus, who's considered an early adopter of minimalism, had at least 3 wives: the robe, the sandals, and presumably some sort of undergarment. What I am saying that as a society, we believe that we should love our wives and that we should take care of them. But is this what we're actually doing? When I start my work with people, I ask them to put all their clothes in a pile, and then I announce to them, these are your Mormon wives, and some of them aren't getting laid. This does usually get their attention. Now, I tell them, your quest is to pick up each one, spend a moment with her, and tell me if you love her. Now, this seems like it would be a pretty easy question, but frequently I am met with the following response. Well, I don't really like this, but I'm expected to wear it to work, to Christmas, or to my sister's sports ball barbecue. To which I say, let me rephrase what you just told me. I do not love her, but I will marry her anyway because society dictates that I do. And I would just like to point out that maybe this is a good time to stand up for what you love and end people pleasing, because society is what gave us wires under our titties and shoes that are not shaped like our feet. Another way that our insanity shows up is the way we treat our wives. This wife spent 40 years in the bag in which she was purchased, unable to fulfill her destiny of being a tablecloth, because her owner was too worried she'd be damaged. Till I told her, every wife dies, but not every wife lives. Which is a quote from Braveheart. And I wonder, is this what we're doing to ourselves? Are we finding ourselves to be too precious emotionally or physically to actually have a good time on this planet? Guilty. All right, do we have a housing crisis for our wives? Has we spent $1 billion on our houses and somehow can't afford $20 to organize our jewelry? Or get a nice dresser with the drawers open. This is important. Oh, if you have too many wives, our corporate overlords have a solution. It's called crushing them. That is the saddest after photo I have ever seen. Another solution for your problem of feeling the void is called matchmaking with mail order third world wives. Probably not made by slaves, just priced the way that makes you think they were. So do not think about the void, do not face it, do not deal with it, do not ask questions, just get more wives. And then if you don't like them, strangle them in plastic bags and stick them in your attic. I'm just reporting what I have seen. Gifts are arranged marriages. They do not go well. This is a gift I received. All right. She is a very nice wife, appropriate for a 40-year-old woman. There's a B on it. I mean, an effort was made. It's cute. But she's not my wife, who I love dearly, who is crazy, and I love her. We have such a good time together. I was at MVets recently, and a young man said, "You must have watched the Sun Sphere get built." Must I have? Is there a solution for our arranged marriage problem? Yes, my client and now friend Claudia says, I am in love with a wife that is out of my reach. Friends, for my birthday, will you please help me get her a craftsman-made boot out of real materials? I was delighted to give her some of the money back that she gave me. So what if we stopped buying garbage? What if we stopped being garbage? What if we started asking for what we want? What if we raised money for artwork by our friend Adam Deal? Or perhaps some jewelry from our friends? It would be amazing. All right, I want to say, when I started doing this work, I was a normal person. Not that you can tell in this picture. I'm actually doing some construction administration on the Sun Sphere. Time is an illusion. And I want to say, what I learned from working with people about things, what the wives have taught me, is that our homes are an uncanny reflection of what's going on with our psyche. And it's worthwhile to face the relationship with our wives and face the void and figure out what's going on, because actually our homes are also a reflection of how we show up in the world. And we spend way too much time worrying about other people's wives, whether it's famous people or our parents. Moms, right? So anyway, but we are only in charge of our own wives and the relationships that we have with them. And I encourage all of you to see what's going on there and work on it, because we can change this world in like 2 seconds flat. Thank you very much.